Jesus resurrected Lazarus. Jesus resurrected Lazarus. Dead, but yet he was alive. And the title of the lesson is, It is Never Over with God. Do you sometimes just feel like in life, man, it's over, it's done with? Have you ever played sports? One of the greatest things you can ever experience in sports is when you're down and out, things are not going that well. Then out of nowhere, Nathan Cleary comes out and wins again for you. Or out of nowhere, your team comes back and wins. It is never over with God. See, with God, there's something always guaranteed, which is, with him, you can never question if it's over. Because he's always just getting started. Point one, never give in. Just because he's gloomy doesn't mean he's doomed. Just never give in. I think often in life, the biggest thing you have to do is to never give in to your feelings or your fears or the things that are going on within you. Because at the end of the day, the thing that would only destroy you is you. In John chapter 11, 1-10, it says, Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. When he heard this, Jesus said, This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that the God's Son may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed there where he was for 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, Let us go back to Judea. But Rabbi, they said, a short while ago the Jews there tried to stone you, yet you are going back. Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this word's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light. See, news was sent to Jesus that Lazarus was sick. So Lazarus was someone who was loved by Jesus. Mary, who is the sister of Lazarus, showed a great deal of love to Jesus, poured perfume on his feet, wiped it with her hair. So this family was no ordinary family to Jesus. He knew them deep in his heart. So life will always have moments of gloom. Could you imagine being Mary and Martha, and you get a news that maybe your mom, your dad, your sister, whatever, your brother is sick? See, at every stage of life, there will always be obstacles, hurdles to jump over, difficulties, challenges, tragic news that can at times put a spear through your heart, and it just shatters your heart on a deep level. So let me ask you, what are the current glooms and dark clouds over your life and heart today? Is that a visa situation? God, I need a visa. How do I stay in the country? Is it a need for a job or a promotion? Your lack of purity before God. I think purity is one of the most difficult things these days to have because of the world we live in. Maybe it's loneliness. Have you ever just felt lonely? Do I have mates? Do I have friends? Do people really care about me? If I died, would anyone even come to my funeral? Death of a loved one. Hurt by those you care deeply about. Physical pain, or maybe spiritual pain. Or maybe you just feel life is just not fair. See, your self-doubt and negative emotions can also be the glooms of life. But you must be like Jesus in times of gloom in order to survive it. So upon hearing the news, Jesus simply goes, well, this sickness, it's not going to end in death. There was this sense of optimism about Jesus. He did not believe it was all doomed for Lazarus. So your attitude of faith in difficult situations is the key to overcoming and breaking through. That's all it is. In Hebrews 11-12, it says, And by faith even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise, so that from the one man, he as good as dead, became descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. You know, when I think about this concept of just never giving in, having faith in all situations, it reminds me of my friend King. I was catching up with King yesterday, and it just reminded me of a miracle. So when King first arrived in Australia, he arrived as a student, which means he was going to be working 24 hours, but then he had school as well. He was an international student. Times were tough. Meant that he lived a life where it was always like, I need more money to pay my school fees. That is every 3 months. That is money that I don't have. But I also need to put God first. And it was this consistent battle. But through it all, King will always go, God first, God first, God first. And I will never forget, it was during COVID. And King was doing his tax returns. You know, when most people do the tax returns, what do you get? Some of us get 1,000, 2,000. Some of us hope we get something and we get nothing. And we're like, what's wrong with the system? Nothing. God just wants to give you what he wants to give you. I never forget, King was doing his tax returns. And I was helping with him doing his tax returns at the phone. Click this, bro. Click that, bro. Do that, bro. And then King pauses. He goes, bro, there's a figure that is large. I was like, what's the figure? I'm like, oh, maybe he's getting like $1,000. He's like, bro, it's a big number. What is it? Because he gives you a projection of what he goes. It says I'm projected to get back $6,000. I was like, bro, are you sure? Do it again. Bro, $6,000. I call my wife. I go to Effie because Effie is attacked. Effie, $6,000? Is that normal? He goes, that's not normal. King, you sure, bro? Manny, it says $6,000. You know what? Let's just wait and see if the money hits your account. Because he projects, and then you wait, and then you see what God does. Yeah. A couple weeks later, there is $6,000 in this man's account. And it just made me go, you just never know. You just never know when God is going to work. So the question is, are you letting your circumstance determine your faith? See, Jesus saw Lazarus' sickness as an opportunity for God to be glorified. I think the hardest thing for humans to do is to see your difficult situation as an opportunity for God to be glorified. God is always going to be the one to have the final say in any and all situations in your life. Are you allowing God to have the final say in your current situation, or have you already concluded the end of the matter? Are you allowing your fears to have the final say, or God? Are you allowing humans to have the final say, God? Bro, my mom says, or my dad says, or my situation says, I shouldn't be a Christian. What about what God says? Matthew 19:26. Jesus looked at them and said, with man this is impossible, with God all things are possible. So what does that mean? Yes, your situations are going to seem like it's the final say. But God goes, that is the very point at which I begin to work. Have you ever watched the Avengers movie? What is beautiful about the Avengers? It always gets bad before it gets better, isn't it? I will never forget when I was in the cinemas watching Infinity War, when Thanos snapped his fingers and the whole half of the whole world died. I'll never forget it. And I was so mad at Quinn, the guy that just shot him in the face. Like, what is wrong with you? And obviously, we know what's going to happen. They're going to bring another movie called Endgame. Here is them coming back. But in that moment, I was so consumed. I was like, this can't be the end. And then all of a sudden, there's another movie that saved the world. See, people make movies to try to get us to believe that it's never the end. God goes, just read my Bible and you see, I never ever believe it's ever the end. Yeah. All stories in the Bible, what did it tell you about? When humans think something is impossible, God goes, it is very much possible. You know, I think about Charlotte and when she was in America before she came to Australia. She was in America and she was studying and she was thinking about, do I come to Australia and maybe go on the mission team to Hong Kong? She really wanted to be able to go home and save her people. But she's like, God, I don't know. You have the final say. So what did she decide to do? She goes, I'm going to fast for 3 days and pray for God to help me to know the decision. If God allows me to baptize a Chinese person, think about the predicament she's putting God in. God, if you allow me to baptize a Chinese person, then I will know for sure you want me to go to Australia and you want me to go on a mission team. I look at that sometimes, I go like, come on, don't put God in a box. We'll just baptize anyone. It could be Nigerian, it could be Tongan, just anyone. Why Chinese? She fasted, she prayed. And that was God allowing her to baptize Lan. That was her baptizing Lan. Both her and Lan then came to Australia. Lan is now leading the church in Hong Kong. Charlotte has gone on to be a missionary in Hong Kong and gone on to be a missionary in China. That even convicted me. I was like, don't put God in a box. So you gotta ask yourself, what have you not allowed God to have the final say in? Maybe you go, God, I really want to be personal for this. I really want to be able to use. But God, I don't believe I can be used at my work. Have you had the final say now? If I love Kieran getting baptized, you know what it is? Ricky got a job at Kieran's place. That's it. Ricky was looking for a job, got a job at Kieran's place. He goes, you know what I'm gonna do at this job? I'm gonna evangelize. Talks to Kieran. Kieran goes, he's weird. I don't want to talk to him. Then he keeps going. Kieran goes, maybe I need to give this guy a chance. He gives him a chance. Starts coming around, starts studying the Bible. A month or two later, he's now getting baptized. Have you allowed God to have the final say at your work? I mean, he gets to use his towel today. I'm still trying to use my towel. Because I got a little beef with Solomon. He stole my towel to baptize his friend. But I went and got another one anyway. But Have you allowed God to have, what about your university? Some of us go, no, nothing can happen at my university. It's dead as dead. Are you allowing God to have the final say? I remember when I first became a Christian, I went to Sean. Sean was discipling me at that time. Sean, time for me to stop university. He goes, why? He goes, that's not my purpose in life, Sean. My purpose is to seek and save the lost. University is stupid. Let me just quit it now. Says the guy that before I was baptized, university was everything for me. He goes, man, don't be an idiot. What if God wants to use you at your university? I was like, no. Full-time, bro. Full-time ministry, no. Then he goes, bro, he showed me a scripture that really convicted me. So I made a commitment to God. I go, God, in every single class I'm going to walk into, I'm going to talk to 3 people about God in each and every single class. So I was that weird guy. Because after class, I'm lingering at the back, going, okay, who am I going to talk to? Who am I going to... And there's 20, 30 people, or maybe 50, or maybe it's a lecture. You're going, who am I going to talk to? And then you're going, let me just wait for those guys that are also lingering at the back like me, and maybe I can talk to them. Then I remember one day, there was a guy that I wanted to talk to. I was like, oh, no, this is the guy. This is the guy. And he walks out. And no, that's not you. Didn't walk out. He was taking too long talking to the teacher. I'm like, bro, I got things I got to get to. Hurry up. But then as I'm waiting for him, another guy walks through. I go, you know what? Forget about him. I'm going to the other guy. Shout out to that guy. He studies the Bible. 6 months later, becomes a Christian. All started because I made a commitment to God. I am going to talk to 3 people at every single class I walk into. I wanted him to have the final say at my university. So you can ask yourself, have you allowed God to have the final say, or are you having the final say? See, trials and spiritual drills are there to increase your faith. Some people go, what is the purpose of trials in my life? John chapter 11 to 16. After he had said this, he went on to tell them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him up. His disciples replied, Lord, if he sleeps, it will get better. There's just certain scriptures you read, and you go, man, they just didn't understand Jesus. Lord, if he sleeps, surely he will wake up. It's only an 8-hour sleep. Jesus has been speaking to them of his death. But his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. So then he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I'm glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. Then Thomas, also known as Didymus, said to the rest of the disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. That part I go, why did Thomas say that? Like, what is he trying to get to? Let us go so we can go die with him. Okay. So the glooms of life are simply drills to increase our faith and character. Remember in your high school? And then they always do fire alarm drills? Because this is for when there's a fire. And none of us ever listen because we're like, when is there going to be a fire? Or you're at university and every now and then you hear an emergency alarm, emergency. This is a drill. This is a drill. The same thing happens with faith. God puts you through trials that are just drills to increase your faith. See, every single day we face attack from Satan, and our faith and character are built up from the trials God has allowed us to undergo, and they serve as a strength for us to overcome what we're going through in the present. In Romans 5:3-5, it says, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. So he says you need to go through suffering for it to produce perseverance, for it to produce character. Some of us want the character without the suffering or the perseverance. God, I will take the character right now. Just give that to me. Or even some of us, think about it in the world. People go, I want to be a billionaire. They've never earned or saved money in their life. I just want to be rich. And they don't understand what it takes to be rich. They don't understand what it takes to have money. They don't understand what it takes to be successful. God, I want a great job, but they don't understand what that means. God goes, there has to be some sufferings to lead to perseverance, to lead to character. And then character is hope. You know what's the beauty about hope? It means that no matter what situation you're in life, you always believe God will see you through. That's the beautiful thing about hope. See, God has already prepared and made you ready for your current trials because you overcame the past trials. And your current trials is God making you ready for future trials. Never forget the man or woman God has built you into through the things you've undergone. If you were to look at your life in the past 5 years and go, are you the same person? The answer will be no. You've transformed, you've changed. Or if you're here for the first time, you go, man, I'm sick and tired of who I am. You haven't met God yet. God is really committed into the business of making you a very different version of yourself. I'm committed to transforming you to the point your friends don't even recognize you when they meet you. I want your friends to see you and they go, what happened to you? And you go, Jesus happened to me. See, Jesus saw Lazarus' death as an opportunity for his disciples to believe. Even then, it was not to believe. Even then, it was for them to believe in Jesus' divinity and to see the divine authority that Jesus had. See, every trial you overcome only deepens your faith and trust in God, which also then allows you to be able to give faith to others. It's like the concept of, like, for example, giving money to God. You learn to be generous through when you go through trials when it comes to being given. I remember when I was at Sydney Uni, and I was there. I was like, okay. And I was a student, get paid, money pays for bills, that's it. One of those weeks, money was short. And I go, man, God, what am I going to do? I want to give money to you, but I'm short of money. I don't know what to do. So I'm like, God, I'm going to pray that you're going to give me money so I can give to you. And what was God teaching me? That when you have nothing, with God, you can have something. So I started praying. And I was a lunatic because I would pray, then I would check my account. Nothing was there. Let's pray some more. I prayed, then I checked my account. First day is gone. Okay, that was just the first day. Let's try again. I prayed, then I checked my account. It's almost as if I was waiting for something magical to just drop into my account. Then I go, nothing is there. Now comes the day that I'm supposed to give money to God. I go, God, this is the last day. Now it's time for you to work. There's no other option. I check, nothing was there. It's only in the morning, still 9 in the morning. Afternoon, nothing was there. Early evening check, something was there. I was like, what is going on? So I go, let me trace this and find out what's happening. I traced it and I find out that Great Gatsby had given me money. Because I had done a little bit of extra work, whatever, in movies. That means they give me money from here to there. And I remember that blowing my mind and going, that means if I am ever in the desert, if I am ever stranded with nothing, my God will always have a way to come through for me. Isn't that the beauty of a relationship with God? That no matter how dry it is, God will bring water out of nowhere for you. No matter how difficult it is, God will bring something out of nowhere for you. That is actually what makes Christianity fun. Christianity is not fun because you sit at home and say, I'm a Christian and read your Bible. Christianity is fun because you go out and live out your faith. Yeah. And when you go and live out your faith and you see God work, you start going, well, I want to go tell people about this God of mine. So you can ask yourself, have you become a Christian that is a couch potato? Or are you still an active Christian? What does it mean to be a couch potato? You love your couch, you sit on your couch, and you watch TV. That can be Christianity as well. I read, I prayed, that's enough. What about living out the very faith you're reading and praying through each and every single morning? And point 2, that you never give up. You never give up in life. There's never ever reason, there should never ever be a reason for you to have to give up in life. No situation is ever too dead for God. And in John chapter 11, 17 to 27, it says, on his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now, Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem. Many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, he went out to meet him. But Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she replied. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. See, Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. Addition is interesting because in the beginning of this story, you remember it says Lazarus was just sick, right? They said Lazarus was sick. And it's interesting, when the news was first brought to Lazarus, it was just that he was sick. But Jesus did something interesting. He didn't go straight away to meet Lazarus. He went after 2 days. Why? That extra 2 days would have guaranteed for sure if Lazarus wasn't dead, he probably would be dead by then. By the end of the time Jesus arrived, it was 4 days later. Have you ever felt like, God, I have a problem sorted out like right now? Like right now? And it's not that God can't. And I go, why? Why did Jesus wait 2 days before going? Was it so there could be an unimaginable miracle of resurrection? He goes, I want my disciples to see resurrection, so let Lazarus die and I will bring him back. Whatever the reason was, what is clear that Jesus was always in control. He knew there will always be total victory. But could you imagine being one of his disciples? Could you imagine being Mary or Martha? Going, I told this guy my brother is sick and he's still not here and it's 4 days later. This is what we must believe in all circumstances and in all situations. That God is always in control. Take Chloe's story, for example. She's finishing her old job, looking for a new job. She decides that she's going to look for a job in Parramatta in every single scope or possible around where her household is going to be, besides one location, where the brothers in the church has a house. I was like, why? Anyway, I'm not judging here anyway. So she applies for every single daycare job she can get, besides that one location. Again, I'm going, why? What do you have with the brother's house? I don't know what it is. Anyway, she applies for everything, and God gives her nothing. Literally every single daycare there is to apply, she applied for it, she got nothing. Out of desperation, she goes, let me apply for that one that is near where the brothers live. So she applies for it. That the same afternoon she applies for it, she has now an interview. Interesting. She goes for the interview. They like her, they love her, they say, we're going to give you the job. And more than that, we're going to give you more than you've asked. She negotiates her wage with them. She gets an incredible job that she's been at now for months and she's loving. And God goes, what were you avoiding? I don't know. You can ask her. I don't know. But have you ever avoided something? Like, I'm going to do everything, but I'm just going to avoid that. And God goes, that very thing you're avoiding is the door to all the miracles you want in your life. Come on. See that door you're avoiding? Until you go through it, dry desert. And all God is waiting for you to open the door. Maybe God goes, you haven't bought a towel yet? Dry desert. Buy a towel, open door. But you can understand that's who God is. He's always in control. He knows what their plans are. See, perhaps God mentioned, it says he mentions 4 days. Lazarus was dead for 4 days. I goes, why mention it in the scriptures? We already know this guy is dead. Why mention 4 days? Maybe God really wanted to communicate the state of hopelessness before the eventual miracle. See, what situation in your life has reached the point of hopelessness? Do you even have hope for your future? Hope in your life, period? Sadly, some of us go, man, I don't even have hope that I'll be alive by the end of the year. I don't even have hope that I'll be alive tomorrow. If there's a way that I can take my life, I will take it right now. Have you gotten hopeless? Do you even have hope for heaven? Like, if you die today, are you sure you will make it to heaven? What a hard way to live life, sad way to live life. That you don't have hope that when you die you can make, then what are we living for? In the world, hopelessness is the end of the line. Yet with God is the point at which he begins to work. If you ever want a scripture that teaches you that hopelessness is never the end, Romans 4:19-21. It goes, without weakening in his faith, he faced the fact that his body was as good as dead. This is talking about Abraham. Abraham faced the facts. He knew the reality. He knew the fact. But it says he did not weaken in his faith. Since he was about 100 years old and Sarah's womb was also dead. Yet he did not waver through unbelief regarding the promise of God. But he was strengthened in his faith and gave glory to God, being fully persuaded that God had the power to do what he had promised. See, the key thing in your life is, do you believe that God has the power to do what he has promised? Because when you believe in the power of God, you actually don't need anything else. Because with the power of God, you can accomplish all things in your life. I think of my friend Sharif, who's in Melbourne. When he first came to Melbourne to be in the mission team, he came in faith, had no job. He goes, I'm going to come and God is going to take care of me. So he looks for a job in his field. He's a fitness trainer, really great one, but he got nothing. He was applying for jobs before he came. I was helping him, nothing. The only thing he could find was to go back to a construction job. So he started working in construction. If you know anything about construction, it's pretty tough. So nothing. All right, he's doing construction. The money is coming in. Not ideally what we want. Then God will help him. He then got a fitness job, but it was really only a few hours in a week. Maybe like 5-6 hours max in a week that he was getting. So it still wasn't the best. Then God does what he does at times. He goes, okay, Sharif, time for you to lose your construction job. He goes from having 2 jobs to his construction job, call and say, sorry, mate, there's no work. He's like, what am I going to do? All he had was a fitness one. Then he got another construction job. Worked one day. After one day, the guy goes, sorry, there's no more job. Now the construction job is gone. And all he has was, a few hours in a week of work. And I remember this Spirit Sharif goes, I think God is trying to teach me a lesson. He holds on tight, still in faith, still looking for a job. But what was amazing was a company calls him up. A company that he neither applied for a job to, never went for an interview to, call him up and goes, hey, you're a fitness trainer. Yeah. He goes, we would love to hire you. He goes, for what? See, if you're in the fitness industry, understand getting consistent hours is hard. He goes, we want to hire you full-time 30 hours a week. And we want to train you up to become someone that can work 30 hours a week. While we're training you up, we want to pay you money for us to train you till you get to 30 hours a week. He's like, what? He's like, Manny, what do I do? And at the moment he has that option, he has another option coming at him, wanting him to work as well. I said, bro, when the Lord opens the floodgates, he opens it. And now he's working in that fitness place, being paid to be trained, getting the hours he needs, not having to wake up at 5 a.m. for construction work. And all it was you wait for God's timing. No matter what situation you're at, it's never hopeless. See, Martha somewhat understood the power of God. She understood. She goes, man, if you were here, Jesus, he would have lived. But God can still give you anything you ask for. Okay, she's understanding. Jesus has the power to do anything. Yeah, when Jesus stated to her that Lazarus will rise again, she goes, yeah, he will rise at resurrection day. So why did Martha not conceive that her brother could rise immediately? Was it a lack of faith? Was it that she limited what Jesus could do? Was it that she had never seen a resurrection before and thus did not fathom that such thing could be possible? See, whatever the reason was, we can all be like Martha, can't we? We can have future faith, but lack faith for the now. Have you ever had future faith but you lack faith for the now? Yeah, I'm sure God will give me a job by the end of the year. But what's stopping God giving you a job today, tomorrow? I believe God can grant me a visa in 6 months, 7 months, maybe a year. What's stopping God granting you a visa now? I believe I can get baptized by the end I can become a Christian by the end of the year. What's stopping you getting baptized today or tomorrow? So easy to have future faith, but you know what's interesting about future faith? Is actually you covering faithlessness with faith. It's going, I think I'm faithless that God can change my life right now. So let me elongate the time period to give me enough time to have faith. But what's stopping God working for you now? Luke 18:7-8. And will not God bring about justice for his chosen one who cries out to him day and night? And will he keep them off? I tell you, he will see that they get justice and quickly. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find such faith on earth? See, no situation is ever too dead with Jesus. Jesus boldly states, I am the resurrection and life. By this very statement, Jesus asserts his authority over life and death. This is both for all physical things and all spiritual things. You know, when you think about God just really being able to turn things around in a dead situation, it reminds me of my friend Lee J. Not the story about him having his special, there's a different story. Me and my friend Scotty, we had her, you know when God keeps working for one of your friends, you go, what about me, God? Am I just like, I pray to you too? So during the Christmas period, I was talking to my friend Lee J. He had been in America with his wife having a vacation. And Lee J, Lee J is just fired up. I'm talking to Lee J, we're having fun. He goes, bro, I gotta tell you a story. I was like, yeah, what? Tell me the story. He goes, bro, I found $800 today, USD. First, I go, in my hurt feelings, I go, bro, did you give it to the police? He goes, no, bro. I lifted up my feet, and there was $800 under my feet. I'm like, bro, that doesn't happen to anyone. What are you doing? He goes, I lifted up my feet, and there was 800 USD under my feet. I was like, what the heck? I goes, what'd you do with the money? He goes, I found $800, and I looked around me, there was homeless people everywhere. So I went and bought food for all the homeless people, bought clothes and shelter for them, bought Bibles for the church in Samoa, because in Fiji, because they all needed Bibles. And I bought a little bed cover as well for myself, because, we don't have that much money in Fiji. I was like, well, you just found 800 USD like that. So I call up my friend Scotty. I'm like, Scotty, bro, you know what I just heard from Lee J? He found 800. He's like, that guy, $800, bro. I just lost $250 yesterday. I was like, bro, are you all right? You sound like you're hurt. He's like, bro, don't talk to me about this guy. And we're just like, why is God always blessing this guy? But that's Legia's life. Walking miracle. Everywhere he turns, miracles. Legia is no different to us. It's a matter of faith, isn't it? It's a matter of faith. So we serve a God of resurrection. John 11:32-44, it says, when Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord. They replied. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them said, could he not, he who opened the eyes of the blind man, had kept this man from dying? Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. Take away the stone, he said. But Lord, said Martha, the sister of the dead man, by this time there is a bad odor, for he had been there for 4 days. Then Jesus said, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me. But I say this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me. When he said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped around his strips of linen, and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, take off the grave clothes and let him go. See, Jesus was deeply moved by the weeping of Mary and the Jews there as well. See, our pain and mourning and struggles do not go unheard of by God. It moves his heart. Jesus resurrected Lazarus by his words alone. This blew my mind because I was thinking about it. In the Old Testament, there's accounts of resurrection. Elijah and Elisha did resurrection. Then you had the man that was thrown into the tomb of Elisha, and he came back to life. But in all of them, there needed to be a physical contact with another body for the resurrection to happen, right? Elijah had to put his body to the boy's body. Elisha had to do the same. The dead man, through his body, touched Elijah's bones. He came to life. But when you look at the New Testament and all of Jesus' resurrection, he resurrected people by his words alone. Luke 7:14-15. Then he went up and touched the bear that they were carrying him on, and the bear stood still. He said, young man, I say to you, get up. His words. The dead man sat up and began to talk, and Jesus gave him back to his mom. Another account, Luke 8:54-56. But he took her by the hand and said, my child, get up. Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astonished, but he ordered them to not tell anyone what had happened. And then you have Lazarus' one, whereby his words he says, come out. So wait a minute. Jesus' words are more than powerful enough to resurrect. Well, who is Jesus? He's the Logos, isn't he? The very words of God. The very Bible we read is the very words of God. The words of God can resurrect. It can give life. So how is your faith in the very words of God? If the words of God was enough to resurrect people, then what can the words of God do in your personal life? That's why when people come to study the Bible, they read the Bible and it transforms their heart. They read the Bible and they go, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. You need to believe in God. If God says it, that simply settles it. And I really want to lift up Davina's. She had the spirit about this. Beginning of the year, she goes, I want to find a way to raise money to give to church. Every year we raise up a particular amount of money to go to the daily running and mission money to plant churches. In a week, God sorted out her money that she wanted to raise. In a week. She started doing pet sitting. I've tried that before. It's actually pretty cool. I didn't get the job, but I thought it would be a cool thing. In Melbourne, I was trying to do it in Melbourne, but anyway. She's going to go pet sitting. So she has someone that hires her. And the job was meant to pay her $640. That's what it was meant to pay. But Davina's goes, I'm going to pray to God that this lady can be generous to me. Now think about it. When you think about someone being generous to you when they're already paying you $640, what do you think about? Hey, give me an extra $40. For some of us, just buy me a meal. That's generosity done. She prays for this lady to be generous to her. She didn't ask this lady, she just prayed. Out of the kindness of this lady's house, after she has pet sat for the lady, She goes on to pay her not $640, but $1,250. Yeah. I was like, I need that generosity in my life. Faith. And the concept of her giving her extra money was so she can get food for herself. I was like, what do you do with $600 extra money for food for yourself? That was generosity. And I really think about it as well when I think about nothing is ever dead with God. I think my friend Juju, we all know the story of his dad getting baptized, right? And we all know that his dad was in the hospital about that. But there was something special about that. A week before his dad was actually baptized. His dad lives in Samoa. There's a couple different islands in Samoa. He had gone to one island in Savaii to just deal with different things. While he was in the other island called Savaii, he actually got sick and had and during the night, he went to an emergency. He went to emergency and it was there. The doctors wasn't quite sure what was wrong with him. But nonetheless, they were able to let him out. A week later was then when he got baptized. 2 days later was when he was in the hospital. What they didn't realize is when he had gotten sick a week ago was because there was blood in his brains. The blood has been in his brains for a while. And that man got sick, went to emergency hospital, and yet God goes, you're not dying just yet. You're not dying just yet. Allows him to live for a week, enough time for him to get baptized, to be saved. After 2 days, literally after his baptism, he was in hospital again, never woke up again, he was in coma, woke up a little bit, not fully awake again, and dies. I go, when you want to talk about God can turn any situation around, think about that. He goes, I'm going to give you a week. That's all you need. I think for some of us, you're going to go, how long has God given you? How long has God given you? You can't guarantee what you get tomorrow. You got to make the most of the opportunity you have right now. You know, guys, in conclusion, it's never over with God. I think Juju's that situation is as simple of it was never over with God until God goes, now it's over because you get to be in paradise. So point one, never give in. Never give in to the emotions and the feelings you have in your heart. And then point two, you never give up. I want to leave you with a quote from Winston Churchill in a speech he had done. And he simply says this, never give in. Never give in. Never, never, never. In nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in. Accept the convictions of honor and good sense. Never yield to force. Never yield to the apparent overwhelming might of the enemy. For us, that overwhelming might of the enemy is at times Satan. But with God, we never give in, and God will take care of the rest. And that's the sermon today. Amen.